Hey guys, Sean here. Welcome to the F1 Word and to this week's roundup, of course, the first of the season. First up today, it was reported a little while ago that McLaren's Zak Brown had visited Red Bull powertrains with talk of a potential supply deal doing the rounds. Interesting stuff. And on Friday, Christian Horner confirmed that the McLaren boss had indeed visited the site and very early exploratory talks have taken place about the prospect of McLaren taking Red Bull engines from 2026. Now, Horner initially joked that he thought Brown was coming for lunch, but went on to say that it is, quote, inevitable that discussions are going to be had regarding potential powertrain supply, adding it is only natural for them to speak with potential customers. And whilst Andrea Stella did make it clear that McLaren is currently committed to Mercedes, he also said that it is normal to want to understand what is available when looking further forward. This shouldn't all come as a huge shock though, as Zak Brown confirmed at the team's 2023 launch that the current Mercedes deal is under review and they'll be taking their time before committing to any engine supplier. It is also heavily rumoured that Honda could be an option as well. The point being that whilst it's good to know it wasn't all a rumour and very early conversations have been had, we could hear a lot over the next couple of years about McLaren talking to a number of different manufacturers. There is an interesting line from Horner that I think I need to point out, and I will quote him here. He said, from what we see now, there is no money in supplying customer teams. It is not a profitable business. Maybe a little bit of business posturing, I don't know, but I'm afraid this is going to be one of those classic cases of watch this space. But I would be interested to know who you think will power McLaren from 2026, and for what it's worth, I think it could well be Honda. Yes, they had a tough time when they worked together a few years ago, but this isn't the same Honda we saw blowing up constantly in 2015, for example. Moving on, and last week there were some stories doing the rounds that Red Bull could be looking to offload the AlphaTauri team, with AMUS in Germany reporting that new management within the company felt the results and the marketing value don't justify the cost of owning the team, and so they were looking at either moving the team to England or perhaps selling up altogether. That naturally led to talk of Andretti buying the team, with High-Tech GP and the owner of the Mumbai Falcons racing team also linked. However, ahead of this weekend's Grand Prix, team boss Franz Tost said he has met with management and had some very good meetings with the managing director, who confirmed to him that the shareholders are not looking to sell the team and Red Bull will continue to support AlphaTauri going forward. He went on to add, quote, all these rumours have no foundation and the team has to remain focused for the start of the season to perform better than last year. You know what they say, never believe anything until it is officially denied, but that is the official word as of today. Although I will say nothing really has been said right now about the rumours of moving the team to the UK. If, though, Red Bull do change their minds, it could well be a great option for Andretti to get into F1. We've had some, in my opinion, very good news this week regarding the Spanish Grand Prix. From this season's race, that final pesky chicane will be gone, and the series will return to using the old layout, something we haven't seen in F1 since the chicane was introduced in 2007. So instead of navigating that, drivers will now have two fast right-handers to tackle at the end of the lap, and the hope is that change will create more overtaking opportunities into Turn 1. New Tech Pro barriers have been installed at the final two corners and further changes have been made to the circuit, including the widening of the Turn 1 runoff area, the addition of 70 metres of gravel again at Turn 1, and new fencing at the first two corners. Both layouts, with or without the chicane, have been homologated by the FIA, and event promoters will have the choice of which one they want to use. Look, I am so pleased to see a return to the old configuration, and I really hope after all my years of moaning about that chicane, it does improve the racing. Fernando Alonso says that a podium finish is not the target for Aston Martin in Bahrain this weekend, and has reminded people of the gap between the top three and the rest of the field last season, saying he doesn't believe Aston can make up that kind of time over one winter. Not that that has cooled the hype in any way whatsoever, as you'll see from the testing wrap a little bit later. Or practice wrap, I've got testing on the brain. The Spaniard, though, is very happy with the car, but is keeping his feet firmly on the ground, with the goal being to learn more about the car and the new package and try to deliver the best result possible on Sunday. But as Fernando Alonso plays down the team's chances, Charles Leclerc and Sergio Perez say they expect Aston to be in the mix at the front, and Lewis Hamilton said the Silverstone-based team look very strong and like they could be fighting right at the front. Not long to wait now until we find out just where Aston Martin are. Are you believing the hype? Let me know. Formula One announced earlier this week that the series has entered into a 15-year strategic partnership with Tottenham Hotspur. Yes, that Tottenham Hotspur. The partnership will see an electric karting facility open below the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, or White Cart Lane if you like a really out-of-date pun. I'm so sorry. With separate circuits for adults and junior racers. On top of that, both will be accredited by the National Karting Association, and the two parties will develop a driver academy program to identify the next generation of drivers, as well as working together to deliver on their shared vision to, quote, create life-changing career opportunities, promote diversity and inclusion, and driving environmental sustainability. That's according to Stefano Domenicali. And in case you didn't know, this won't be the first time F1 and a Premier League club have worked together, with Sauber previously carrying the Chelsea logo on their cars, and Sauber branding would, in turn, appear on advertising at Stamford Bridge. I'm not going to lie, it really caught me, and many others as well by the sounds of it, off guard when that press release dropped. And finally, on Friday, the first two practice sessions of the season took place in Bahrain, with Sergio Perez topping the opening session with a 1:32.758, finishing ahead of Fernando Alonso by just over 0.4 of a second, and Max Verstappen by just over 0.6 of a second. McLaren in the morning at least looked better than feared after testing, with Lando Norris making the top 4. Let's see if he and they can carry that over into qualifying and where they are once everyone has set a proper lap time. Charles Leclerc was the fastest Ferrari in 5th place, just shy of 1.5 seconds off the pace of Perez. A couple of other things worth a mention include Carlos Sainz losing it on the bump at turn 9 and going for a big spin, and Lance Stroll spent some time in the garage as Aston Martin investigated an ignition issue, but the Canadian wasn't waiting too long before he got back out on track and eventually ended the morning in P6. As for FP2 though, Fernando Alonso set the fastest time of the session with a 1:30.907 on the soft tyre, with Max Verstappen just over 1/10.5 behind, and Sergio Perez just a couple of thousandths of a second off his teammate. If that's the order for qualifying, we are in for a treat. Charles Leclerc was P4, just over 0.4 off the pace, and Nico Hülkenberg was 5th, only slightly slower than the Ferrari. Solid lap from Hülkenberg. Verstappen said over team radio his Red Bull was jumping around a lot more than it was in testing. Oscar Piastri had a big lockup at turn 1, but before that had a very near miss with Lance Stroll, who was hovering around in the middle of the track just before turn 1. And the Canadian had some difficulty with his wrist, not a great surprise, having to take his left hand off the steering wheel, almost pushing the wheel through turn 1. There is also footage of him having to take his right hand off the steering wheel down the straight to clench it, so clearly, and frankly obviously, he's not totally comfortable out there. Although Lance did say after the session that he's a little bit stiff but generally feeling okay, and that his movements were just to protect it through the corner and make it feel a little bit more comfortable. He went on to add, "I feel like I can definitely drive, no problem." That is it for this week's roundup, but you can let me know your thoughts on any of the stories featured today in the comments section down below. Now, I will be back live on Sunday with the Bahrain Grand Prix race reaction stream. In the meantime, though, if you did enjoy this one, then please do leave a like and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future content. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been Sean, this has been the F1 Word, and until next time, goodbye.